And welcome back. Another great episode of Beerfield Fantasy Shots. I'm your host tonight, bartender Dan Thury at Thury BFF. Behind me, you can see Nick working and watching Jerry Seinfeld stand up. Nick Sparks at Nick Sparks with the Z, not an S, but he's mainly on the show page, which is at Beerfield FF. You can also follow Christopher Hopper at Hot BFF. Uh, Earlier today, I brought you guys the waiver wire ads, and right now I'm going to bring you up with the news. Not a whole lot of news today, just some things to talk about. We'll start with the Giants. Ben McAdoo could give up play calling dealings per Art Stapleton via Twitter. Thank God, because that was a shit show to watch. In other Giants news, they are sticking with Eric Flowers at left tackle per Kimberly Jones via Twitter. Sure. I don't know if it could get much worse than what happened last night, but for now, that's what they're going to show us. They haven't. I don't think it looks like Mike Sullivan could be taking the reins to do offensive play calling for them. So we'll see what happens next week. They do play Philadelphia, which isn't a great matchup. Obviously, you started Odell, and then Shane Vereen's a good flex play, but anybody else, maybe Sterling Shepard, maybe Evan Ingram with the tight end, with the lack of tight end depth right now. Moving on to some Jaguars news, they claimed Jalen Strawn off of waivers. Doesn't really mean anything. He's going to be buried behind Hearns, Lee, probably Ben, and then Westbrook when he gets back. This is just added depth to a receiving core that's lacking. It's next. Browns send Corey Coleman to the IR with a broken hand. He can resume practice in 6 weeks and then return to gameplay in 8 weeks. You have to all understand this is also taken into account his bye week, so it looks like mid-November is when he returns. Nick posed a question tonight on the podcast. What are you doing with Corey Coleman now? I say drop him unless you have an empty IR slot. Hopefully you play in leagues with IR slots in them. If you don't have it being used, might as well throw them in there. It's as good as dropping them, and then if you need that spot open for another player, then you can drop Coleman. Guys that pick up potentially in return. All the guys I mentioned in the waiver wire show, if you're looking for a Browns replacement, Rashard Higgins looks to be the guy. But he's going to be really matchup dependent, and we got to see how he plays out in multiple weeks now as the number one. Because Britt and Colts are still there. I don't like their attitudes, obviously, of what we've seen, so they should just be outright cut. But they are still a thing there. And then Higgins was also seen as a starter on their depth chart. Now, into Bears news, the Bears waive Tanner Gentry. He only lasted 1 week, and this was per Rich Campbell via Twitter. I don't know. It can't get much worse for the kid if the Bears are already lacking receiver depth, and then they cut one of their receivers. It looks like maybe they're putting him back on the practice squad if they can. Otherwise, he's just going to sit there for more teams to take him if they need it. That was mainly for Dynasty News. If you had picked him up in hopes of him doing something this year, you can be safe to drop him at this point. And sad Greg Olsen news, which is probably the biggest news of the day. Greg Olsen goes under surgery and is placed on IR per the Panthers via Twitter. Just like Corey Coleman, he can return to practice in 6 weeks, return to gameplay in 8. The Greg Olsen injury is a Jones fracture in his foot. They call it that because it's what Julio Jones has been dealing with. It had been dealing with for the last, or for a couple, 2-3 seasons ago. It's what Watkins was dealing with prior for the last couple of years as well. It's a nasty injury that tends to be long lasting. You saw it with Jones. It ate up the first couple of seasons. His second and third season, I believe, if not his first. So I hope this isn't an end for Greg Olsen. The Panthers are expecting him to return at some point this season. Just like with Corey Coleman, I would obviously rather put Greg Olsen on the IR, but I think in deep leagues he's droppable if you are really needing of a tight end. Thankfully, there's a lot of decent streamings tight ends this week. In terms of 12 team, he is probably droppable, which pains me to say. It's one of those things that you're gonna hold them, you're gonna hold on to them for a couple weeks, and then you're in dire need of waiver spots because of bye weeks and because of playoff pushes. We're gonna drop them anyways. Drop them now, free up that spot, or pick somebody else up. That could be something. Maybe there's a person out there for some reason that wants to trade for him. But as it looks right now, he is done in my eyes for this season. I already mentioned the Rashard Higgins news. So last piece of news, I didn't realize it was even a case, is that Jerry Jones stated that Dak will be ready to play in Week 3. He suffered an ankle injury against the Broncos. This isn't worth any, like, it's not considered serious, but this will be worth something if he's popped up as limited in practice or even DMP Thursday and Friday night. That's the only big news that we have for today. It was a fairly quiet day. Most Tuesdays are, as teams are just kind of they don't have to put players on their injury report. So over the next few days, especially Thursday and Friday, you'll start to hear more news. So that's all I got for today. Please, please, please follow, like, comment on our YouTube channels. Please follow and like us and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. This is where you can find our podcasts. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know if you need to do something better, do something more. If you want to tell Awkward to fuck off, if you want to tell Nick to fuck off, if you want to tell me to fuck off, if you want to tell everyone to fuck off, do it on there. Also follow us on Twitter, like I mentioned earlier, at BeerfieldFF, on Facebook at Beerfield Fantasy Football, Instagram is BeerfieldFF. I had mentioned in the other show, but Nick tomorrow will be taken back over to do a starts and sits of the week, and he will tell you how badly he did with some players and then shed a few tears. Thursday, I'll be back to give you guys news and what you saw, and then some things to see over the weekend. Some premature ads so you can get on top of the waiver wire pool before you have to give up a waiver wire claim. Friday, Chris will be back on the new DFS stuff. He said he didn't have a great week last week, so hopefully he comes back strong this week and you guys can win some money. Saturday, Nick does his he does his in and outs on Saturday, let you know of the injury reports. It's too early in the season for Bill Belichick to put his entire roster as a questionable to play, so Nick should be safe for now. That's all I got. I'll see you guys Thursday. You'll see Nick tomorrow night. Peace.